Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months.
Yoda Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, today's the day, man. Today is the day we've all been waiting for. I'm both a little bit nervous, but also super excited to unveil to you guys my very first mock draft of the 2024 season. It's been a big off season, y'all. Jim Harbaugh, the overturning of the staff. We got brand new DC and Jesse Minter, OC, and Greg Roman. Chargers fans are very excited. And you know what? I think it's about to get even more exciting in here as we continue to wrap our minds around the fact that not only do we have Jim Harbaugh, not only do we have Justin Herbert, not only does the future look very bright, but the Chargers also have the number 5 overall pick in the NFL draft. That is just such a huge deal. Not just for the first round, but every round that follows. The Chargers will be at the top of the pecking order. That's going to provide a lot of opportunity for brand new GM Joe Hortiz to jump into the league, make a splash as the new man in charge of the Los Angeles Chargers. So in today's video, we're going to run through 2 mock drafts and have you guys decide in the comment section below which one was your favorite, as we do traditionally on this channel. More than one mock draft makes things a lot smoother, a lot funner, and casts a wider net. So it should be a pretty good one today, man. My first take on it. Very excited to share this one with you guys. Before we do, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. You guys want to jump in on the action? Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. It's a great way to support the channel. Newcomers, enjoy this special. As always, should be a fun week. And before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification. Helps me out a lot. Let's get into it, baby. First mock draft of the year. Lights, camera, action. Your Chargers mock draft numero uno 1.0. First take here. We're going to do 3 rounds, and of course, draft A and draft B is what we're going to be comparing today. And this comes after a lot of thought, man. There's a lot going on in terms of the Chargers and its fan base and what we think the Bolts should be doing at number 5. And ultimately, that's what I want the theme of today's draft to be. What should the Chargers do at number 5? And maybe what would both of these options look like if the Chargers decided to go down one road or the other? I think either way, as Chargers fans, a lot of us are going to be excited. I, for one, will tell you that if the Chargers decide to go path A, I'm going to be stoked. If they decide to go path B, I'm also going to be stoked. But it really is kind of crazy to see the different roads, the different destinations each one could lead to. So let's go ahead and jump into our very first mock draft. This one is going to be mock draft A for those of you following at home. This will be the first option in today's video that kind of shows us the path paved by our man, Brock Bowers. I got to say it officially, right? I got to do it the official way.
With the number 5 pick in the NFL draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Brock Bowers, tight end, Georgia.
Okay, so I think a lot of you guys knew this is what we were kind of, aiming up to. All right, Brock Bowers has been a fan favorite. I've been harping every single week about why the Chargers should be drafting Brock Bowers, why he's such a team fit, why he's such a Jim Harbaugh guy. But let me go ahead and explain one more time to you guys who are following for the first time on the Chargers mock draft here. Brock Bowers at number 5. A lot of people may think, hey, director, this is a bit high to go shooting for a tight end. Is it not? Haven't we seen recent history suggesting guys like Kyle Pitts, drafted in the top 10 is maybe not a good idea? That did not pan out too well for him out in Atlanta. You know what? I think, for one, the Kyle Pitts situation is a completely different story. Lack of quarterback play, lack of coaching. I don't know if that was ever going to work out for Kyle Pitts. Whereas if you put him with the Los Angeles Chargers or pretty much any team with a quarterback, I think we're talking about a much different Kyle Pitts. All right? So Kyle Pitts aside, why is Brock Bowers worth a top 5 pick in the NFL draft this season? Well, for one, we have to go ahead and sit back and say to ourselves, who is the best tight end that we've seen in the draft? Maybe ever. By the end of the combine, maybe even by the time the Chargers are on the board, we can probably say very comfortably Brock Bowers is in that conversation. Brock Bowers may end up actually being the best tight end that we have ever seen in the NFL draft, which is pretty impressive considering how crazy and ludicrous of a prospect Kyle Pitts was just a few seasons ago. Some might say, once in a generation type. Maybe that, term gets thrown around a lot, but Brock Bowers really does scream that. Now, of course, I've been a football fan a long time, haven't really been paying this close attention to the NFL draft and its prospects until I started up this YouTube channel. But I'll say in my time as a fan, and certainly in my time as a YouTuber, Brock Bowers is by far and away the most impressive tight end that I've seen come into the NFL draft. He is absolutely insane. And we're not going to be the only ones aiming for Brock Bowers, mind you. This dude is a playmaker. Bowers brings more than just the ability to go out there and play tight end. He goes out there to be and becomes the ability to be the player that your offense is centered around. You have got a good quarterback. That's even better of a situation for an offense that says, hey, they got Justin Herbert and Brock Bowers. They can go out there and beat the best of them with those two players alone. The Chargers aren't going to be done there, of course. They're going to try and build themselves a very stable run offense. Of course, they got other complementary weapons, featured weapons like Keenan Allen and company out there. It's going to be a very, very, very nice fit for Brock Bowers, the playmaker. Dude's very fast. Very, very fast. I think he's going to run somewhere in the realm of a 4.5 flat. For the tight end position, that's pretty great. If he runs anything faster than that, then we are definitely in business. But the kind of speed that can stretch the field over the middle and take it to the house. Justin Herbert doesn't have very many weapons like that. A man that can catch over the middle and take it home. Brock Bowers is that kind of weapon. But for me, the speed is definitely very attractive, and it's something that the Chargers definitely need. But the other things that Brock Bowers does is what makes him, the most attractive maybe weapon in this draft outside of, Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. Brock Bowers and his ability to destroy defenders on his way to the end zone is absolutely insane. Chargers fans aren't too unfamiliar with this, as we've seen Gerald Everett, show us a little bit of that here and there the past couple of seasons. Brock Bowers takes that idea to 11. The guy's impossible to tackle, takes 2, 3, 4 guys to bring him down. He's slippery as all get out, and his ability to create more yards after the catch is phenomenal. His ability to come up with catches in traffic is phenomenal. His ability to line up anywhere on the field and make an impact is phenomenal. Brock Bowers isn't just a tight end. He is a prominent featured weapon in whatever offense he gets drafted into. I dare even say he goes to a team with maybe a little bit more of a lackluster, talent at quarterback. He still will shine because this isn't a tight end. This is, Julio Jones playing tight end in a bigger frame. Kind of crazy to think about the kind of offense that you could run behind that. And in today's NFL, tight end is becoming more and more of an important position you see in the highest ranks of NFL teams. Think of some of the NFL teams in the past couple of seasons that have made it very far. Right? Most recently, the Detroit Lions behind Sam Laporta, who was a rookie in his season, mind you. Prominent part of that offense. Kelsey, of course, with the Kansas City Chiefs, has been a major part of that offense for years now. Likely a big reason why they've gone out there and won a few Super Bowls. Then, of course, the cream of the crop guys, like Mark Andrews, et cetera, et cetera. That position is becoming so prominently featured that it's impossible to say that they're not worth drafting anymore. Then you go out there and ask a guy like Jim Harbaugh if they're worth drafting. I certainly do think he will share the opinion that absolutely they are worth drafting. Because not only are the Chargers going to be leaning on Brock Bowers, for instance, at pick number 5, to be that prominent weapon in the receiving game, they need somebody to come out here and really help shape the run game. And that is where Brock Bowers gets the edge over guys even like Malik Neighbors. His involvement in the run game will be felt. Now, of course, yes, his frame a little bit concerning when thinking about going up against 6'6", 300-pound defensive ends. but he's a very capable blocker. Even at the NFL level, I have to assume he's going to be very, very nice. Certainly would be the best blocker on the Chargers roster that we've seen in a long time. And that counts for something. When you're talking about a team that's looking to reshape into more of a run balance offense, guess what? Tight ends are very involved in the kind of offenses that Jim Harbaugh built, certainly Greg Roman. And you're going to need a very, very good one to lead the pack. Might as well be as important as a running back in a run balance offense of the future for the Chargers. So Brock Bowers, to me, very exciting guy to think about. In terms of player comps, I've been watching a lot of draft profiles and gaining as much knowledge as I can on some of these guys. And funny enough, the guy I'm seeing thrown around a lot in terms of comparison for Brock Bowers, and at first, I got to tell you guys, I was a little offended by this, but it's been Antonio Gates, who maybe at the time, of course, not a lot of pressure on his shoulders, being undrafted and all. Definitely might have been considered a little bit undersized. Maybe not your traditional tight end in the league. But when it's time to sit down and watch these dudes like side by side, I was absolutely floored to see, oh my God, Bowers does carry lots of shades of Antonio Gates in his play. Both of them, yes, a little undersized, but both of them, I have to assume, are going to run around identical 40 times, very fast, playmakers, impossible to tackle. No disrespect, of course, to one of the greatest tight ends to ever play in the NFL, Antonio Gates, but I see shades. I see resemblances, and it's something that I think Chargers fans should pay very close attention to when asking yourself, is Brock Bowers and a tight end specifically worth a top 5 pick in the NFL draft? Brock Bowers at number 5. Sorry, that kind of took over the video, but very important explanation there, okay? In the second round, the Chargers at pick number 37 select Chop Robinson, edge out of Penn State. Now, in our draft A scenario, the Chargers going offense in the first round decide to turn around and go defense. In the second round, of course, not a bad idea to take a look at the edge position, considering the environment the Chargers are going to be in this season, the situation they're going to be in at the position this year. A lot of speculation that Khalil Mack could be on his way out via trade very soon. A lot of speculation that the Chargers could be kicked a 4th, 3rd, maybe even 2nd round pick if the situation is perfect enough for Khalil Mack. That's going to open up a bit of a need at edge. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen to Joey Bosa, but you go out here and find a Chop Robinson in the 2nd round, which I'm seeing a lot right now, and we're going to draft him in the 2nd round so long as that's happening. Definitely not a bad idea. And this is the beauty of the 5th position in the NFL draft. The Chargers go from, I don't know what it would have been, the high 40s, the low 50s, if they were to be drafting in the positions of years past. Instead, they're drafting pretty much late round, 1st round picks, right? Late 1st round picks in the 2nd round. There are going to be guys that fall out of the 1st round. They're like, wow, how did he make it out? They're going to be guys that go, oh my goodness, there's no shot that he makes it to the Chargers. The Chargers are positioned in a spot where I do believe something like that could happen. Chop Robinson at 37. It is a bit of a stretch, but I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it every single mock draft. Or I should say every time I sit down to do mock drafts. And it's something that I would love to take advantage of in terms of best player available. We're not going out here saying, we're going to skip over better talent to get Chop Robinson. No, Chop Robinson is BPA in my opinion. And it's something that you're going to see a lot from new general manager Joe Hortiz in 2024 and beyond. We're going to kind of let the talent fall to us and make sure they're on the roster come kickoff. Now, Chop Robinson, as a player, what would he bring to the Chargers? Well, beyond filling what could be a need by kickoff and filling another edge position player, maybe a guy that can rotate in his rookie year, much similar to how Tui Tuipulotu stepped up, we might be able to see some from Chop Robinson. And he would be an electric player for the Chargers to feature in this defense. Jesse Minter would have a very fun time designing blitz packages with him in mind because of the speed that he possesses for the position. This dude is going to be fast. He's going to be nasty. And that's kind of, the calling card of a Chop Robinson when you watch him play. He's got his weaknesses. He really does. But his strengths revolve around this aggressive, almost desperate need to get to the quarterback as soon as possible. And he's got traits and he's got tools in his tool belt to help him accomplish that. For one, he gets off the line faster than most, maybe any prospect in this class of edge position players. Like, he is absolutely off that line, on his way like a missile to the quarterback in no time flat. He's got the speed to defeat blockers, I would say almost just based off of the raw speed alone, right? You have to think to yourself, okay, they're going to need moves. He's got some moves. He needs to refine those moves. He needs to build on those moves. But the speed alone makes it very difficult for tackles to handle him at times. And that's something that I think the Chargers can definitely work with in the second round. Very slippery, very fast, very aggressive edge defender, and one that I do believe the Chargers would find a lot of success with in the future, because he has the uncoachables. The things that he needs to be coached up on a little bit, setting the edge, could be something that he needs to work on. He does sell against the run a little bit because he's so hyper-focused on getting to the quarterback. Sometimes he forgets to go after the running back. That's something that you can coach, right? His refinement in his pass rushing moves, he can learn a lot from Joey Bosa, Thule. Hopefully McAfee's still there. I would have to assume that's not the situation. Those are things that can help be coached, right? Chop Robinson, he brings a lot to the table as an edge rusher. A lot of rawness, yeah, but I think there's more refinement than maybe he's getting credit for. And I think he would be a slam dunk steal in the second round if the Chargers were to find him there at 37. Solves an immediate problem and gives us a nice edge guy for the future, even past, let's say, a guy that can develop in rotation with Thule, even past Joey Bosa. And that could even open up an opportunity for the Chargers to say, hey, you know what? We like this Chop kid a lot. Maybe let's go out there and sign a vet. Could open up an opportunity for the Chargers to trade Joey Bosa after the draft, where, in my opinion, he would have the most draft value. Or I should say trade value. After the draft, when teams have maybe missed out on that edge rusher in the draft, maybe missed out on that guy in free agency. Now it's time to go out there and say, hey, man, we still got this guy out here for trade. Maybe the price has gone up a little bit. All right? Keep that in mind. And our final player here in Draft A, the Chargers in round 3 at pick number 69. Nice. Are going to select Roman Wilson, wide receiver out of Michigan. Now, of course, there's a wide receiver at the top of this draft a lot of Chargers fans are going to be hoping for. You might be able to see that here a little bit. But if the Chargers do not go wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, I do firmly believe they have to pick one up between days 1 or 2. Okay? They're going to need a guy very quickly to come step in and be a part of this offense, because wide receiver is a very sneaky big need for this team. The Chargers, yes, do have Keenan Allen for this season, hopefully a couple more seasons beyond that. He's definitely still going to be a huge part of this offense. But who do we have outside that? Mike Williams, who's probably going to end up being cut this season due to cap. We got Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer on his last year of his deal. Does he fit what the team wants in the future? We don't know. Quentin Johnston, rookie, had a very tough season last year. I don't think any of us are ready to give up on him quite yet, but it's not somebody I want to throw my chips down with quite yet either. We're going to have to come up with some solutions. With Mike Williams and maybe even Palmer gone in the next year or 2, maybe time to go out there and pick up a man familiar with brand new head coach Jim Harbaugh and brings a skill set that we're going to need in the future as well. Because Roman Wilson, in my opinion, if it weren't for the fact that he's kind of a niche fit, I would think that he's much higher in the NFL draft, probably closer to a mid probably a mid-second round pick, in my opinion. I think that's where he would fit quite nicely. But the fact that he's probably predominantly going to be a slot guy in the NFL helps him fall down to a position where the Chargers can select him at pick number 69. And that is something very advantageous, once again, to the 5th position in the NFL draft, because Roman Wilson, I would say, in my opinion right now, should be at the very least a late 2nd round pick. You could find him at the top of the 3rd right now. And he possesses a couple of things that the Chargers will be very, very lucky to add right now specifically. For one, the speed. Chargers do need speed. I think a lot of us forget that we do still have the same needs in a lot of different areas that we had last season. The biggest one of them is probably still speed. A big factor that Chargers fans kind of pull our hair out about is the fact that we can't utilize Justin Herbert's big arm because we just don't have the guys that can stretch the field at the necessary speed it would take to really see that put to good use. Roman Wilson, in my opinion, is definitely going to be a 4-3 guy. I think we've seen a lot of that speed on tape, a lot of that speed utilized by Wilson in getting separation, certainly from the slot. And it's something that immediately would bring the Chargers some relief in terms of, okay, we got a guy that can burn. The second thing, however, and I think maybe the most important thing, is we may have the slot man of the future. Now, of course, yes, we have Keenan Allen, but Keenan doesn't exist exclusively in the slot. Yes, we got Josh Palmer, but Josh Palmer's the same way. He doesn't exist exclusively in the slot. He might, at some point if the Chargers decide to keep him, they could change systems, whatever. I think the Chargers could use a good slot receiver that is that guy in the middle. Now, if you draft Brock Bowers, you could say, hey, director, you got that guy already. You're going to see a lot of Brock Bowers in the slot. Yes, you could. But I think the flexibility in weapons is also something very, very nice to think about because you are going to need a wide receiver. And I think at the round 3, you're not going to find a lot of guys better than Roman Wilson to bring that fire, bring that speed, to bring that consistency. Because on top of the speed that he would bring, I think the biggest thing that we often ask ourselves on this channel is, what is he bringing more than speed? Speedsters often can be thought of like, we got to go get him because he's got the moves, he's got the speed. Show me what you got outside of that speed. And maybe that's where we start talking, a little bit of turkey here. And that's where Roman Wilson really steps up. His route running is crisp. This man gets open with the best against the best of them, man. And his hands very consistent. Roman Wilson kind of feels like the complete package. If he was 6'2", 6'3", and could work the perimeter a little bit better, I think you're talking close to a first-round wide receiver here. But because he's a little bit shorter, I think somewhere around 5'11", 5'10", and predominantly exists in the slot, you are going to be able to find a little bit of a discount on him. And I think the Chargers be a great system for him to fit in, as well as being that guy of the future with the team. Keenan Allen, yeah, he'll probably have two more years, maybe 3 at the very most with the Chargers. But then who are you going to look at in the slot in the future after that? I think Roman Wilson could be that guy. Yes, there might be a little bit of redundancy because you are going to see a lot of Brock Bowers in the slot. You are going to see, some other guys being able to step up and play in the slot for the Chargers. But I think Roman Wilson is the guy of the future as slot receiver for Justin Herbert, at least in this draft here. So there's your draft A scenario, all right? Let's move on to draft B. This will go a little bit faster, all right, now that we kind of have the table set here. In round 1, at pick number 5, the Chargers will select Malik Neighbors, wide receiver out of LSU. Now, for those of you paying attention at home, this is now draft B. Go ahead and start weighing in if you would like what your thoughts are on draft A. And by the end of this, you can let me know which one of these two were your favorites. Now, at round 1, this is why I wanted the theme of my first mock draft this season to be kind of the yin-yang, the battle of Brock Bowers and Malik Neighbors, because both these options are so attractive and neither one of them are wrong. Both of these players are absolutely worth the number 5 overall pick in the NFL draft. We explained Brock Bowers. Great fit for Jim Harbaugh. Now let's talk about Malik Neighbors, who, in my opinion, yes, Brock Bowers, maybe the best tight end that I've ever seen coming into the NFL draft. Malik Neighbors is among the best wide receivers that I've ever seen coming into the NFL draft, and that's a very high compliment coming in from his recent, draftees and guys like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, et cetera, et cetera. There have been some nasty wide receivers entering the NFL the last couple of seasons, and Malik Neighbors is certainly on top of that list among, I would say, the top 5 at least. A lot of people have him at 3. In terms of wide receiver prospects, a lot of people have Jamar Chase, then Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors. If it weren't for Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors would be the huge name talked about at wide receiver in the 2024 NFL Draft. Now, if the Chargers in any way, shape, or form are lucky enough to get their hands on Marvin Harrison Jr., of course, that's probably the route that I would go. But there are some that think that Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. are so close you can consider him 1A and 1B. That is how razor thin the margins are for many in the NFL in terms of talent between Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors. I think everybody pretty much shares the consensus opinion that Marvin Harrison is going to be something very, very special in the NFL. He carries a lot of reputation with him among everybody in the YouTube community and fan community that he's going to be that next guy. Malik Neighbors, at least from what I'm hearing and what I'm reading, is very, very close. And I think at this point, you can say that he's not being talked about enough. This dude is absolutely phenomenal. Everything I've watched in regards to Malik Neighbors screams to me a comparison of Antonio Brown, maybe prime Odell Beckham Jr. The dude is an absolute playmaker. And yes, he does possess probably one of the biggest things the Chargers need right now, the ability to work the perimeter and provide that speed. Malik Neighbors is he kind of reminds me of like a faster Antonio Brown, which is kind of crazy to even think about. The dude, you throw him in a one-on-one situation, he's coming down with a lot of those balls. You throw him in the outside, inside, underneath, it does not matter. Malik Neighbors is going to find a way just to get open and come down with the football. One of my favorite things to watch about in Malik Neighbors' tape and in his highlights is his ability to read defenses from the wide receiver position and find that soft spot, specifically versus zone. You're running zone coverage versus Neighbors, there is no way he's not going to get open at some point. And quarterbacks thrive when they've got a weapon like that. Of course, Justin Herbert has had that weapon in Keenan Allen. He'll continue to have that weapon for a couple of seasons. But when it comes to the guy, the man of the future, I think Malik Neighbors could be it. For the longest time. And again, huge respect to Keenan Allen. And I'm very excited to see him with the team. I'm hoping for the next couple of seasons addition. But in my time, at least, Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen, right? Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen. He was kind of like, the middleman between Phillip Rivers to Justin Herbert because of how long his career has been. I think Justin Herbert and the future of wide receiver for him could be Justin Herbert to Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors could be the next Keenan Allen for this team. I honestly couldn't explain how big of an impact that he could be at the wide receiver position now versus what he could be in the future. You would have your guy for the next 10 years. Justin Herbert would be set. You're giving him his Jamar Chase to his Joe Burrow. Like, that is how huge of an impact Neighbors would be with this squad. Absolutely unbelievable playmaker. Hugely talented route runner. Great speed, acceleration, Debo-style after-the-catch skills. The man is unmatched, right? Marvin Harrison Jr., yes. But then outside of that, the margin is so wide between those two receivers and the next guy, it's ridiculous. Neighbors absolutely worthy of a top 5 pick and one that a lot of Chargers fans are pounding the table for right now. I am so split on it, guys. This is one of the hardest things that I've had to look at and make my own firm opinion on in a long time. Do I want Malik Neighbors? Do I want Brock Bowers? I honestly don't think you can go wrong either way. There is a strategy, however, that I think is a little risky that could result in the Chargers getting the best of both worlds if they could. Malik Neighbors, if the Chargers are saying, you know what, we want Brock Bowers, we're going to go get him, but there's a situation unfolding where maybe, just maybe, we can go out there and get some value on top of it. The Chargers could trade down and still get Brock Bowers in a lot of situations. But right now in this mock draft, I want the Chargers to go into it thinking, we know who our guy is, we're pounding the table for him, and pick number 5 is good enough no matter what. Malik Neighbors is that guy for me. Brock Bowers is that guy for me. All right? Next up, draft B. In the second round, the Chargers at pick number 37 select Zack Frasier, center, Western Virginia. Now, we're going to go a little bit different in draft B. Instead of going to defense, we're going to go right back to offense. Talk a little bit why I think this position in particular and this player in particular could be such a vital add for the Chargers even in the second round. Now, again, does Frasier make it to 37? I don't know. I think so. I think there's a case to be made that, yeah, I think he could, especially with Powers being drafted a little bit higher, right? I think Zack Frasier could still be available. And Frasier, to me, yes, Powers is going to be a very, very coveted, center coming out of the draft, but Frasier is also very, very, very good. And it's a position I think is extremely important to this team in particular. Justin Herbert, when provided a solid center, is almost a different quarterback. The offense and its efficiency is, you can go take a look at the numbers. I don't have them in front of me, but percentage-wise, much more efficient when you've got that guy at center. Yes, Corey Linsley is going to be missed. You guys know the situation there. He's likely retiring. But Zack Frasier, I think, would be a very, very, very good successor to Corey Linsley for a couple of different reasons. One, yes, his talent as an offensive lineman is something that you want to see. He's a mauler in the middle of that line. He's a plug-and-play center day one. He's going to look very nice for whatever team decides to draft him. He's going to help in the run game, help in pass protection. He's very polished, and I love that. But there's a huge, huge element to Frasier's play that I've been reading up on that I think the Chargers and Herbert in particular would appreciate very, very much. Zack Frasier takes a lot of play call responsibilities off the quarterback's shoulders on the offensive line. Got a very quick processor. He's very quick to understand what's going on in front of him and make adjustments. And that, I think, is a huge, huge element to what Corey Linsley was bringing to the table. Being able to expertly diagnose what's going on, call protections, and take that off of Justin Herbert's shoulders. You saw a different guy out there when Corey Linsley was on the field helping shoulder that load. And that is something that I think, especially if we have Corey Linsley in the facility, even for one, off season, you put him and Frasier in the same room and let them get to work. Let them figure that out. And I think Zack Frasier could end up being one of the most important, players drafted by the Chargers in a while at the offensive line position. And that's crazy to think about because we have Zion Johnson, we have Rashawn Slater. I think Zack Frasier is exactly the kind of center that you want to see brought into the fold for the Los Angeles Chargers. And I think, honestly, second round is pretty high. It is very high for a center. That is how highly regarded I am seeing and I am respecting a Zack Frasier for the Chargers at this time. All right. And finally, in round 3, the Chargers at pick number 69 are going to select Trey Benson, running back out of FSU. Now, this is a pick I think a lot of Chargers fans can get behind. The Chargers, like we were talking about in the Brock Bowers segment, are needing to commit to a big idea this season. And that idea is a shift in identity. Who are we as an offense? It feels like the Chargers are leaning more towards a run balance system in LA, which means that we're going to need a dramatic boost in our run game efficiency. We have not been a good team in the run game for a while now. No disrespect to Austin Eckler, but he provided something different for the team from the running back position these past several years. The Chargers, if they want to get a Greg Roman-style offense going, they're going to need a Greg Roman-style running back. And Trey Benson, to me, is probably the best option in this year's draft to accomplish that. There's very few guys that I feel comfortable handing the reins and that kind of responsibility to out of the draft this season. Not the strongest draft, I'll be honest, when it comes to the running back position that I've seen in a while, but there are guys that stand out. Trey Benson's one of those guys. Jonathan Brooks. Outside of that, I think everyone else is sort of a complimentary guy, like Blake Corum and Braylon Allen, Marshawn Lloyd, Estime. Those guys, I think, could be paired with a really good free agent. Trey Benson is one of those few guys that I feel could shoulder the load, running back one, 3-down guy, put him to work. And I think Benson in the 3rd round would signify the Chargers are ready to make that move. And it's kind of a sensitive thing to talk about with Chargers fans because, yes, running back is such a big position, and it is a risk. It's a risk not signing a guy in free agency, hoping to get the best guy in the draft. If you miss out on that, you have to take whoever's left in free agency. It is a risk, but I think Trey Benson, if you can get lucky and find him at the top of the 3rd round, I think he's definitely the kind of guy that I'm like, okay, let's get to work. We got our running back. This dude's big, he's mean, he's fast, nice burst, vision, and most importantly, looks like a complete back, a solid 3rd down or a 3-down back. I think this is the guy. Do we get lucky enough? Are we going to be able to roll the dice and say, like, we're hoping to get Trey Benson? Let's hope that we get him in the 3rd round. I don't know. But if the Chargers are committing to this idea of a running game and you go wide receiver in the first round with Malik Neighbors, I think you need to double down in the round 2 and 3 and say, we're getting our center, we're getting our running back, let's get to work. You may still have to go out there and find a tight end in the 4th, 3rd round, whatever. Maybe take one of those picks that you got and trading for, or trading, Khalil Mack or any other guys and turn that into a tight end as well. But Malik Neighbors, I think, is worth the shifting around and finding talent a little bit later. And I think running back is a very, very important part of that formula. Trey Benson is an awesome option for the Chargers. Definitely a franchise-looking running back, at least potentially, and gives the Chargers options to really start putting more weight on that element of their offense. They really need to find a way to make that happen. So you guys let me know in the comment section some of your favorite players from these drafts, and ultimately let me know which one would you go with. Would you go with the Malik Neighbors draft or the Brock Bowers draft? And as a reminder, this is what we got to work with, okay? We're going to actually go back here to draft A. In draft A, the Chargers selected Brock Bowers in the 1st round, Chop Robinson in the 2nd round, and Roman Wilson in the 3rd round. In draft B, the Chargers selected Malik Neighbors in the 1st round, Zack Frasier in the 2nd round, and Trey Benson in the 3rd round. Which one do you guys prefer, draft A or draft B? Let me know in the comment section below. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed my first mock draft of the season. Certainly not going to be the last. Still looking into more prospects, more talent. Also, please leave some guys in the comment section, names that you would like me to look into. You guys did a great job on Twitter. I've started looking into some of those guys, and hopefully we can start talking about our next draft into the 4th and 5th round, etc., as we get closer to that April date. And also keep in mind, the combine coming up here in the next couple of days is something that you definitely want to be eyeing these particular players for if they are participating. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll catch you next time. As always, bolt up, stay frosty, and hit us up with a like and sub on your way out if you did enjoy this content. Let's go out there, man. Bowers or Neighbors? I think the debate is officially on.